Lisa.
Hi, Kino. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Yourself?
Good. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So how's your
Yeah.
Monday so far?
So far, so good. I was working on some client work. I'm a book coach, so I work on other
Okay.
people's manuscripts, and it's been really pleasant.
Yeah. So how's the book industry doing when you're on
Uh,
that side of the business?
yeah, it's interesting. As a book coach, it's been really fun because I get to work on individual projects and with groups and work with people's memoir and fiction. But as you know, this is a challenging for people who want to write a book to actually go ahead and get it published or find an agent or do the self-publishing thing or that kind of thing down the road. But I'm kind of blessed because I'm working on those early pages when folks are like exploring their ideas and trying to figure out what this story is. So I really find that fun and it's really creative. And I think the authors really benefit from that, other perspective.
Yeah. It's crazy, there's so many components to the book industry and also the music industry, which is the background I come from,
Yeah.
like a book coach. So this is the first time I've had a book coach on the
Yeah.
show. Now, this was not part of the agenda, but yeah, we're keeping
Yeah.
it spontaneous. That's what we do. So, I'm going to ask you a question like a 5-year-old here. Book
Okay.
coach versus PR versus editor. What's the
Oh,
difference?
so that's a good question. Okay, so I would say a book coach can fulfill a lot of roles. Right from the beginning of an idea, if an author wants to work on a book, they have an idea and they need to work through that process. A book coach is going to help them. I can give some tasks that they need to complete to figure out like what is the story? Why am I writing it? Who are my ideal readers? What are the themes? How am I going to structure this book? What is the timeline? So we can kind of do all of that work up front instead of what some of us do, which is sort of start writing a book and then go, "Oh, I don't know what I'm doing," and then try to figure out what to do. Well, I can guide people through that process. Some of the authors I work with already have a draft of a novel or a memoir, and they're stuck. They kind of are in the middle, or they got to the end, they don't know what to do to revise it. That's when I can come in and give feedback on the pages. I can guide them into like not telling anyone what to do. They have to, as the author, decide what that's going to look like for them. But um, helping them think through some of the problems or issues in the story and how they might move forward. And then there's the stuff at the other end where they are done, they think they're done, and they send it to me for a manuscript evaluation. And that's when I read through the whole manuscript and I give them feedback on the manuscript. And then they can go make changes, getting it ready to pitch it, ready to query it to presses or to literary agents, or if they're going to self-publish, just get it to this really great state so that it's ready to go out beyond their little circle. So I think book coaches are kind of like cheerleaders. They're like, if you think of any sport where you have a coach, they're trying to push you forward, get better, learn new skills, kind of help you see what's not working. I was a rhythmic gymnastics coach for years and years and years. And, it really is about that. Like you're trying to lift the athlete up and help them understand like how their body can move and what little tweaks can be made to make something better. So it's kind of similar, but except we're working with words and manuscripts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's really I love like I didn't even know what a book coach was 5 years ago. It was kind of a new term, but nowadays there's so many more people who understand that like the value of this kind of mentorship and this relationship one-on-one with another writer that will help your I think it saves time on your manuscript. It helps your manuscript be stronger and you're learning craft and improving along the way. So it's for me, it's like the ideal job because I used to be a high school teacher and I left that in 2022. And so like being a writer and a teacher is kind of like the perfect mix of all the skills I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
developed over the decades.
Well, now at least I know the value of a book coach, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can see how it's actually needed. You mentioned sports, and we look at all these sports stars around the world, and they worth millions of dollars, but they still
Yeah.
need a coach because,
Yes.
they don't have that awareness of their true potential as yet. You know,
Exactly.
like, I mean, you could be a football star, and then you're scoring, 2 goals per game, but you're capable of scoring 3, but you're comfortable with 2 goals per game,
Yes.
and you can do so much more. So yeah, that
Yeah.
makes
And
sense to me.
exactly. Somebody on the outside can see what could be tweaked, what can be changed, how you might just approach the little differently, how to try something else. And all of a sudden you've upped your game, right? It's just,
Yeah,
you just
yeah,
get better. And that's what we all want, whether we're musicians or artists or writers or athletes. We just want to push the boundaries of what we think we can do and just keep improving over time. So I think we can do a lot on our own, but then there's a time when you need somebody else there with you. And so, yeah,
yeah,
I like the word book coach because it really does feel like coaching. It's not telling somebody that's wrong or don't do that or do it my way. It's like, how do we make you the best version of yourself and the best writer?
yeah. And as a book coach, do you only help them like with the book itself, the contents of the book, or do you also help them establish their career, develop their career?
Yeah, well, that's a really great question. I think there's lots of book coaches who probably spend more time on that portion or helping authors get themselves publishers or agents. I work with a lot of newer writers who have, sort of just first or second books, sometimes just at those beginning stages. So they have a ton to learn. And so I do start to talk to them about things like who their ideal reader is, things like developing a social media platform, because before you've written the book, you don't think you need it, right? Like, I haven't written my book yet. I'll wait till later and then I'll start my social media and it'll be fine. And I'm like, no, you should have started it yesterday. Like, get online, start posting, start like engaging with people, let them know what you're doing, share your journey, all of those things. So I'm always encouraging folks to figure out the other, or to understand the other side. Like, there's the writing part, and that's deeply personal, and it's so time consuming, and we're learning how to write a book. But then there's the part where the book goes out in the world, and the world, you kind of want to prep the world for it. It's coming.
Yeah,
The book is
yeah,
coming out, and you can find your readers so that when it does come out, the readers are waiting for it and they want it. So I do like to talk to my authors about those issues so that they don't leave it to the last minute, and they start
yeah,
thinking about it now. And I'm always encouraging them to, start a newsletter. Just
yeah.
start small, start a regular newsletter, get used to writing it, start getting subscribers. And then when you're ready to tell people you have a book, you have a group of people already who are invested and are interested in it. So yeah, it goes beyond just writing the book. I think there's a lot of elements to it, and a lot of emotional support as well, you know?
Yeah. There's, it's another similarity to the independent music scene. The artists just want to jump in studio, they want to get that track done,
Yeah.
and they distribute it to all these platforms, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and like that's it. And they think, okay, it's there, so people are going to find it, but it's not the
Yeah.
case, because all Spotify is doing, all Amazon is doing, is they're taking your product, they're putting it on shelf, whatever. Now you need to bring people there. You need to
Yeah.
bring awareness to it. So I always use the 80-20 rule:
Yeah.
80% business, 20% music, writing, whatever you may be involved in, because you have to be concentrated in that area. There's a
Yeah.
group I follow on Facebook. It's called Authors Helping Authors. So I keep
Okay.
my eye out, what's happening. And sadly enough, just as what you're saying, you're proving it. They don't have that expertise on how to navigate the digital
Yeah.
space, how to get
Yeah.
people there. Like, of course, you get your book tours and signings going on, and there's merchandise, but how do I navigate the digital space? So I post on the group, podcasting, guys, get
Yeah.
yourself onto podcasts. This
Yeah.
is the future. We're still in the early stages, no matter how big the industry is at the moment, but you're still in the early stages. Do what you have to do to get onto podcasts.
Yeah.
It's going to be so
Absolutely.
beneficial to you. Yeah, but there's still
Yeah.
that resistance.
I know, it's true. And even like you can think of a lot of authors, not everyone, but a lot of authors are really introverted. They don't even want to post like on Instagram or Facebook, like at their face or speaking at all. Like, they just want to put an image, which is okay. You can start somewhere. But at some point, you just have to get really comfortable in your own skin and be able to be like, this is me with all my warts and whatever, and just allow yourself to be visible and make connections with people. Because really, at the end of the day, this can be such a lovely place to be, right? Because folks connect, like we are connecting with each other, getting to know each other. It's really like lovely and generous. But if you're kind of afraid to put yourself forward and go on a podcast or do posts where you're on a video or something, I think that's a stumbling block a lot of writers have to get over and just be like, no, it's all good. I can put myself out there. I'm a human being. Like, I'm not AI. We're not perfect. Let's just go ahead and show, let people know what we're doing. And you'll find your readers. You'll find people who will engage with you because they're interested in your work or the story you're telling or whatever it is. So I totally agree. I think that's the same in probably a lot of artistic fields, right? Like, you kind of need to put yourself out there, and it's uncomfortable at first, but then it's fun.
Yeah, no, you have to find your people, and my people is not going to be Lisa's people. Lisa's people is not going to be Kino's people. You have to find your unique audience. They did.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
true. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And
I was just
it's one of
thinking
those. Yeah.
Oh no, sorry. Continue.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's one of those things where we don't really like, unless we kind of go out of our comfort zone, we don't know where we're gonna find our people. Like just being able to get out there and let people know what we're working on. And then it's surprising because somebody from somewhere else will kind of like, oh, I read your book, or I saw a podcast or whatever it is, and there's this connection that they've made. But you won't know that until you try and put yourself out in the world. Yeah.
Yeah. There was a time in my life where I was trying to find myself, my purpose, and what's next for Kino. And there was an entrepreneur who told me you need to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I was like, what? you know, you know,
Right.
yeah, that simple line, changes your whole life. So
Yeah.
the moment you feel yourself getting too comfortable, okay, I need to do something now,
Yeah. 100%. There's a concept that I talk a lot about, which is called Sisu. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. Sisu is
No.
a Finnish term. It means, it doesn't have an English translation, but it means courage, strength, determination. And it's that inner strength that you have when all seems lost. So it's a really important cultural concept in Finland. And I'm Finnish-Canadian. My parents were from Finland. And so Sisu kind of runs through like my writing and book coaching and all of the things. And I think that's exactly it. Like when you get to a point where you're feeling resistance, where you're feeling like nervous about something or scared about something or like what am I going to do next, that whole thing, that's when Sisu comes into play. That's when you're like, okay, this is scary, but I'm doing it anyway. I'm going to keep moving forward. And that's when you grow and learn the most. Like that's that learning curve where, I mean, you could just stay where you are, feeling comfortable, not moving forward, just being like, okay, I've done what I can and nothing else is going to happen, whatever. But as soon as you push through that, that's when all of the world opens up because you are learning so many things about yourself and what you can achieve. So I love that you had that light bulb moment with that that mentor. So cool.
Yeah. Wow, 14 minutes into the show and I'm feeling so inspired. You're such a great person, a good human.
Oh, that's so
you know,
kind.
yeah. I mean, from what I know already, you're also a podcaster, so fits well.
Yeah, for sure. I do this podcast called Women Writing, and it's kind of exactly what we're talking about. I wanted to talk to women who are doing the work of writing because a lot of times women in society are the ones who are taking on a lot of the emotional labor. So they might be working outside the home, they might have children, they might have elderly parents, they might like whatever stage you're at. There's all these challenges. Not to say that men don't have challenges, they do. Lots of challenges. We all have challenges. But I was interested in because being a woman, I thought when I was younger and trying to write and do all these other things, I really struggled and I didn't feel like a real writer because I wasn't writing every day. And so I was so fascinated by how do people get it done? Because I don't write every day, but I am getting my work done and I feel satisfied by that. And I started talk about all these to all these women who were finding other ways to fulfill their creative dreams alongside all of the other things they're doing. So they were inspiring me and teaching me about how they work in the world and how they honor their creativity. And so I just thought, okay, this is a great way to share the word about what they're doing and inspire other people, men, women, everybody, about how you can access that creativity, that inner Sisu, to be able to, follow what you need to do, like in a creative way. That means your life is more fulfilled, because we still, a lot of us have to have the day job. Like we can't necessarily quit our day job in order to be creative.
Yeah.
Some people can, some people can make a go of it. But for a lot of writers, that's just not possible. It's going to be part of their life. So yeah, my podcast is really about the publishing industry and professionals who work in that industry, but a lot about the writers who are just doing the hard work and struggling through it and figuring out how to do it, and like work with the patterns of life, the ups and downs, and all of the things. So it's been really fun, and I've been so inspired by all the guests that I've had on so far.
Yeah. But it's still needed. I mean, let's think about, your journey and my journey, a couple good years ago, it was needed then. And when we look at the industry now, it's still needed now. You are needed. What you are talking about, what you are preaching about in your podcast is still needed, because there's so many overwhelmed creators out there, no matter what creative you are, just doesn't know how to handle this, how to go about it, And of course, we all, in our own individual capacity, we need to take stock of our responsibilities. If I'm single and there's no children to be concerned about, no family, then yeah, maybe I can take that risk. Let me go all in. Let me see what happens.
Yeah,
And if
for
it
sure.
doesn't work out for whatever reason, I'm not going to give up, but I can just go back and have a day job, and then even,
Yeah.
work on my craft. But now if I got a family, now what do I do?
Yes.
Yeah, so now
Exactly.
you definitely need
Yeah.
it.
I love that you said taking stock, because I think we have an internal need to be creative. It helps us fill our well so that we can support other people and be there for other people. If we're not filling our own well, we can't help them with theirs. And I feel like, looking back at my life, I'm 53 now, so I've had different stages where I've had young kids, I was working full time, and I have now my kids are I'm an empty nester, they're out of the house. So that every season of your life kind of changes how you can approach your creativity. And it doesn't mean you should ignore it. It's just, you might have to like look at it differently for a couple of years while this is happening, or you're sick, or somebody else is sick in your family, and then you can pivot and adjust. But absolutely, I love what you said about have like a young person who has fewer responsibilities, like in terms of family or those kinds of things. And if you can go all in and you can make that your thing, I mean, that's amazing, right? Like if you can just go for it. But I do think at any age, any stage of your life, you can make this a priority and go, like, don't let any age limits, no limitations, just go for it. And I mean, I have supportive people around me. So that's also bonus, right? Because every time I went to write at a cafe or something, my husband would take care of the kids. It was like, it was part of the routine that the other person supported the other person in their goals, so that we had our together time, but we also had our time to do our own things. And I think that's really healthy for couples or for families, to recognize everyone needs to like nurture that creative part of their life.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said, about, being in a relationship before,
Yeah.
So I wasn't married as yet, but I realized, whoa, this is
Yeah.
not going to work out in the long term, because I need to do ABC with my life, and
100%.
she's not feeling it. So if she's not feeling it, then look, I had the conversation, she agreed, or he
Yeah.
agreed, if you're a
Yeah.
female now listening to this show,
Mhm.
but then you need to see for yourself, okay, they agreed. You need to say, yeah, sure, no problem. I'm going to
Yeah.
support you. But as you get into it, then you need to ask yourself, are they really committed to what they're
Right.
saying? And then make a call,
Yeah,
make a call.
absolutely. It's so important. And I'm thinking, even when my kids were young, and sometimes I felt a little bit of mom guilt about going and writing somewhere and getting work done. And I had these young kids, and I felt like, you have to balance it, right? You need to spend time with your family and you're working and you're writing or whatever you're doing. And I just remember feeling a bit of guilt about that. But then as the years went by, I realized how my kids were so creative and we were nurturing their creativity. And they just saw, oh, this is what mom does. She writes books. Like it was not a big deal to them. And so it was great because like my daughter is also writes a lot. She's a journalist now, but she's very creative. And my son is an actor. And it was always permission to take time for yourself to nurture your creativity and your goals. And that you have to like carve out time in your life for that. And they saw me doing it and they do it for themselves. So I'm really proud of that because I did feel guilt. And now I realize, no, that was okay. They needed to see that folks do that. Like we need to have our time for our individual goals as well as nurturing them and being with them and doing all the other things. So yeah, it's nice to see my kids pursuing their own creative dreams and knowing that we're like my husband and I are always supporting those dreams, even though it's not easy to be a creative person, especially as a professional creative person. But it's so important. I think our world needs it.
Yeah, agreed. Wow, the creativity runs in the blood.
Yeah.
Your daughter is writing, your son is an actor. And what an amazing parent we actually are, supporting them in their own creative journeys,
Yeah, I
It's
think it
rare. It's rare this day and
yeah.
age.
I think it is it can be a little bit rare. My husband's a musician and he teaches music. So I mean, we're all kind of have our things. But teaching high school for, 28 years, I had a lot of really creative students who wanted to do something in the arts. And their parents would be like, no, we want you to study business. We want you to go into medical school. We want you to be a lawyer. We want you to do whatever. And the kids would feel, because they're young, they are 17, 18 years old, they felt like, oh, no, that is the safe bet. And that's my parents really want this for me. And the creative thing, well, that doesn't really make any money. And so they couldn't envision a bigger future for themselves in a creative field. And I had some students would come back to me a few years later and say, you know what, I did take business, but I actually dropped out of business so I could study this creative art program. And then they're so much more fulfilled and they're happier with their life. And I think sometimes parents forget that like parents want to protect their kids and help them to be successful. And they see that in a very traditional way, but they don't always realize that the creative side of their child is going to be the part that's the most fulfilling in their life and to nurture that for them. And they may not become professional artists. That's okay, but they'll still find joy in creating music or art or writing or whatever it is. So I saw a lot of that as a high school teacher, that kids were really tugged between what felt safe and what felt like fulfilling. and it takes time to figure that out, right? So yeah.
Keyword you mentioned, happiness.
Yes.
What are we here for if we're not living a life full of happiness, doing what we
Right.
love? Waking up feeling fulfilled, going to sleep feeling fulfilled.
Yes.
Yeah.
Totally agree. Yeah, it's so important, and even if you like I was a teacher for a long time. I loved it. I did love my students. I taught English and creative writing. So that was my wheelhouse. And I did love it, but when I went full in on my own writing career and book coaching and left teaching, I haven't ever been happier, right? Like it's just I'm now doing what I'm meant to be doing. And so it took, almost 30 years to figure that out. But it's the moments that gave me good, real happiness, though, in those years of teaching, in addition to finding joy at school, which I did try to do, I tried to enjoy my work and enjoy the students. But it was always carving that time for my own creativity that kept me going. So yeah, it's just finding those little things that make you happy. And if you can only spend 10 minutes a day on them, do that. Like spend 10 minutes on the thing that you love the most. And that'll just help you get through that parts of the day that maybe you don't like as much.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks. What a way to start the show. What a way, like I normally start, the show of, we're getting to know, the author on a personal level, because I believe in that connection.
For
There's like
sure.
no point coming onto the show and authors just talking about their book. I mean, that's not going
Right.
to, you know, grip the attention of the audience. They want to get to know, and once they get to know you and your brand, I mean, the book is an obvious one. So, I mean, you've already said so much, but before we get onto your book, like you mentioned, it took you 30 years, to finally say, okay, look, I'm going in with my book. And you mentioned also, Finnish heritage. Do you want to touch on that? Like, were you born in Finland, then relocated to Canada with your parents, or you were born in Canada?
Yeah, I was born in Canada. So my dad was from Oulu, Finland, and he came in 1951. And my mom was born in Canada, but her both parents came from Finland. So she was first generation, and I'm kind of like first generation on one side and second on on the other side. So I grew up in a very Finnish community in Northern Ontario, and I've been interested in my Finnish heritage my whole life, partly because I was immersed in it as a really young child, and we had a lot of places here that had Finnish cultural activities that I participated in. And not until I was a little bit older did I realize, oh, not everyone speaks Finnish and not everyone is Finnish. And then you go to school and you meet all kinds of other cultures and get learn about other people's languages and where they're from. And so that kind of opens your eyes to all the things. So then when I started writing, I was just kind of leaning into my Finnish heritage because it was a great way for me to learn history about Finnish people, about Finland, and about Finnish immigrants to Canada. Like, why did they come here? what was the purpose? And what was it like for them? And that there was a Finnish-Russian Winter War, which I've wrote about, which has a lot of similarities to the Ukraine. So it's been fascinating. I love history and I love learning about my own culture. So that was it. But what I end up realizing is as you're learning about specific cultures, you realize all the universal connections that, so I might be writing about a Finnish immigrant to Canada, but it really is an immigration experience that lots of folks feel no matter where they've traveled to, where they're living. That feeling of isolation and having left something behind and the hopes for something new and that like excitement about living in a new place, but also it's scary and maybe you don't know the language and you don't have a community and it's kind of universal ideas, even though I'm writing about a particular character, let's say. So it's been really, really fun to dive into my Finnish heritage. And I still have lots of family in Finland, and I've been several times to visit. And I just had this connection to that place, I think, in sort of a deep way. But I'm Canadian, so I have all the Canadian attributes too, which are slightly different. So yeah, absolutely.
So it's taking a deep dive into a heritage that led to historical,
Yeah,
stories.
absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, the very first book I wrote, um, I'd always wanted to write. I always wrote as a kid. Excuse me. And so my dad was 16. He was a Finnish merchant marine sailor, and during World War II. And in 1944, in September 1944, he was on a Finnish merchant marine ship, and all the sailors aboard were arrested and sent to a concentration camp. And he was 16 years old. So at 84, he agreed to tell me his story and what happened. And we wrote this book called Surviving Stutthof. Yeah. So really powerful. I wanted to write it for my family, for myself. I didn't really know exactly what had happened there. I wanted my children to understand what had happened to him. And so that's where it really started. And then the next book was Sisu's Winter War. And he had told me, my dad had told me about when he was a kid, he was like just a boy, like 10 years old when the bombs started falling on his hometown in Finland. The Russians were invading. And so I was like interested in like, well, what were the women doing at that time? Like, what was their role in the war? And I started exploring that. And so I ended up writing a book called Sisu's Winter War, which is set partly in Finland and set partly as she becomes an immigrant and comes to Canada. So that was like, it's kind of, the first book was nonfiction, but the other ones have been historical fiction. But I can kind of always have a string right back to my dad's storytelling and him telling me stories of what happened, because it makes me go, well, I want to know more about that. Tell me more. So, that's where it's been. And that's very recent book, like Water for Weary Souls. I set it in my hometown, which is a northern mining town called Sudbury. And I said it during the Depression, so not the 1930s. And my mom grew up in a small farming community called Wanip. So I have these two sisters from this small community, which I know quite well. It's nearby. And they have come into the kind of big city, it's not a very big city, of Sudbury, to kind of work as domestic workers. And one of the sisters' bodies is found in a frozen creek. And the other sister says, no, the police say it was an accident. She says, no, it was not an accident. I know that something happened to her, and I need to find out what happens. So it's historical fiction about the time period of the 30s, Depression, mining town. There's brothels, there's bootlegging, like all the things. But then there's also embedded in it a mystery about what happened to this sister. So that was fun to write because I wanted to write a bit of a mystery, but I also wanted to stick with the historical fiction and the Finnish characters, Finnish immigrant characters, and draw on my own knowledge of my parents and other folks in the community who moved here. And so it was really fun to write.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't write about it, how would I know what happened
Yeah.
during that period? I mean, when we talk about World War II, how often does Finland pop up?
Right.
I'm trying to think that,
Yeah.
like we had to study World War II, in school. I'm thinking, did Finland ever pop up? Because it never, yeah, you wouldn't think about it. I mean, I wouldn't have known that 1944, 1 year before the war could actually end, there were people from Finland that were in concentration camps. Like,
Yeah. I know. It's
like, wow.
and I know that's the thing about literature, like and books that we can read about people on the other side of the world and enter into their community and come to understand them and be connected to them. Like we actually feel connected to those folks who we will never meet, but who are like us. Like I think in the world, we're more alike than we are different. I really believe that. We all love and we all have insecurities and we have doubts and fears and we worry about our families and we all have the essential ingredients. And then our life circumstances might be different depending on where we live and what's going on at that time period. So I love that about fiction and nonfiction, that we can learn about these historical events and feel like, oh my gosh, this reminds me of my own life. This is how I would feel. This is, a way of seeing the world that I didn't know about, but I can connect to. I think that's just so powerful that we can read all these stories and they make us think more about our own existence, right? Our own realities. Yeah.
I mean, we hear because that happened,
Yeah. It's true.
That should put you like in a space of gratitude,
Yeah.
The importance of reading again, like we as humans, we can be so ignorant at times, right?
100%.
Because we think we know what happened based on, what my teacher told me at school, but I haven't taken the time to actually, look deeper into it.
Yeah.
What was going on, with the leaders of that time, like I mentioned this a lot on the show. I did a course on Winston Churchill because, I mean, it was always Hitler, Mr. Popular, every book was Hitler. But I was like, okay, but Winston Churchill, what was he going through at that time? Of course, there's movies that came, recently. I know there's one called The Dark Hour or Darkest Hour, I watched that as well. But it wasn't like a deep dive into like what was going on with this guy's mind, during that period. And I was blown away. And now by, learning that, you sort of like, adopt it into your own life. And how can I be better at what I do?
It's true.
In my life, if I'm leading a team, if I'm managing my own business and my own record label, or, how am I handling my music on the business side of things? And then look at what Winston Churchill did. But the major thing I took away from that, which but changed my life was, a blessing in disguise. Look for the blessings in disguises, I was like, so now I look, whenever something happens, like you were talking about challenges, before, like whenever I look at a challenge, I don't look at it the way I used to before I did this course. Now I look at the challenge, I'm like, okay, what's this trying to teach me? What can I take away from this?
Yes, I love that so much. Yeah. And that makes because we're always going to have challenges. We're always going to have things that stop us and we can be angry or we can be resistant, or we can whatever negative feelings we have. But I love that reframing of it so that it's like, oh, I'm supposed to learn something here. What am I supposed to learn? How can I grow from this experience? And that makes us so much stronger and more capable. And I kind of think that's why we're on the earth, right? Like we're not meant to just kind of hang out and whatever. Like I think we're meant to grow and change and become the better version of ourselves. Not to be perfect. We don't need to be perfect, but to sort of try to move in the direction of being better people, kinder people, right? I love that you took that course. That's amazing. It would be, yeah, like that's such like and also an example of somebody who like it's a lifelong learner, that you're not just like, oh well, I learned that at school, that's enough. That you're okay, I'm gonna like learn more about this subject, learn more about that subject, and see how I can grow as a person. I mean, amazing. Love it.
Yeah. And
Firing.
when you look back at history, okay, you look at what's happening in the modern world, what's happening in 2012, can be anything, you know,
Yes.
and then you sort of see a link back to history. Hey, wait, this happened before, and all we're doing is repeating what happened before.
Yes.
Have we really come up with something new? When we look at technology or we look at artificial intelligence,
Mhm.
these are ideas that were from way back,
Yes.
but way back, there wasn't funding, there wasn't resources available. So all we've done is we've taken the ideas of the past and now
Mhm.
we've reverse engineered them and it's come out, hey, look at this
Yeah.
new idea. But then when you
Yes.
really look into it, look into history, wait, no, someone else thought
Mm.
about this way back then.
Right. It's
This is
true.
not, yeah, then there's nostalgia, think about it with creative works, especially music, right?
Yeah.
Especially music. If we look at all the modern music, from 2020 to 2025, the producers, or the mainstream producers, when you really take a deep dive into the composition itself and the
Mhm.
instrument itself or how it was actually created, it's linked back to a song that was done in the 1960s,
Yes.
1980s, and it just
Yeah.
taken it then, once again, reverse engineered and boom, pushed it out
Yeah.
to a whole new audience that doesn't know better, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
But because
You know what?
we bring
So
it out
good.
that feeling again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. And I think there's something lovely about that in a way, because it's like they're nodding to the traditions that came before them. So, like, new audiences will maybe experience that in a new way. And hopefully, then they'll also learn and experience the music that came before and be able to go, oh, that sounds like that. And that was pulled from here. And I can see how like nothing is ever really new, right? Everything's like you say, created before and is coming up in a different way now. And the same thing is
Yeah.
with writing. Like sometimes I have clients say, but oh, this story has been told before. And oh, these themes have been explored before. And oh, like other people have written about this same event before. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
no one can write it the way you're going to write it. No one.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to have their own take, their own perspective. You're going to bring something else to it and it's going to be fresh, but it's not going to be completely original, because I don't think anything is original anymore. Exactly. Like like Shakespeare explored it all. And now we're just retelling those stories in lots and lots and lots of ways. And I think music's similar, right? Like we have all those masters who did all the things, and now we are like pulling and taking and making something fresh and new. And I think maybe all art is like that. There's always some experimentation, something new that no one else has tried, but there's always a nod to the past. And I think that's kind of
Yeah.
beautiful. It connects all of us. And,
Yeah. Yeah.
as long as you're not stealing and taking and going like, oh, this is my, no one ever did this. So totally original. Well, that's not okay. But
Yeah.
like when you're nodding back to somebody else's work, I think that's kind of cool that it's like links us all in this
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
global
Yeah.
community. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. It is special. When I talk about this, it's not that I'm saying, oh no, why are you doing that? Or I'm judging,
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
people. I'm
Right.
not. Like, it's great.
Yeah.
It's good
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
It really is good
Sure.
business when you
Yeah.
go about it that way.
Yeah.
honestly
But I'm
speaking.
also concerned, like I think that the technology over like every generation has a new technology. I don't know whether it was the plow or the telephone or I don't know, the car or whatever it is. Every generation has like new technologies and there's people that resist them and then there's people that embrace them and are early adopters. And there are people who are like, I don't know about this. Like, do I want to do this? I'm not sure. Like, it's kind of scary. I think that's where we are with AI because there's people who are like, I'm going to just dive in and it's like use it and it's great. And then there are people like, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to touch it. I don't want anything to do with it. And there's
Hmm.
folks in the middle who are like just trying to figure out like, should I, shouldn't I, should I like, how can I make this useful for my business? Maybe take some stress off me so I can be more creative over here while it does this. Like, so I think we're all in different stages of acceptance but the genie's out of the bottle. I don't think we're ever going back. So we're going to have to
Yeah,
figure
yeah,
out how to use it. And then as creative people, what do we want from that? Like I don't want AI to write my books. I just don't. I don't want to read books that are AI generated. I don't mind if artists use AI to help them market or do something else. I think that's probably effective use of their time. But um, yeah, it's this there's some kind of line there that I don't think as a society we've decided what that is. Like if
yeah,
AI is
yeah.
creating our music, where are the musicians? Like we have a human need to be creative and we need to create those like we need to write music, we need to write, we need to create art. So I don't know that individual like viewers or listeners are going to accept completely AI generated anything because there's no soul in it. There's no human
Mm,
like feeling in it yet. I don't know. It's going to be really interesting to see how this plays out. It makes me a little scared.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
also, I mean, it's this is the future, right? This is where we are, where we need to figure out how to use it in a responsible way that makes sense, I guess.
That is exactly what I was going to say. Responsible way. Like, what am I using it for? But I
Yeah.
feel like, when you really pin it down, it's just authors that are just overwhelmed because
Yeah.
it's moving at such a fast pace. The
Yeah.
world is just evolving. Every day is a new piece of technology. So
Yeah.
even though I'm an author that doesn't want to be involved, with artificial intelligence, I want to
Yes.
spend the next year writing my book,
Yes.
how they used to do it back in the day. That's what I want to do. But then
Yeah.
it gets to you, you start looking at the world around you, you're thinking, sure, I need to speed this up. And then you get pulled in. Okay, AI,
Yeah.
do this. AI, do that. I need this book to be done in 3 months,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
this is how it is. And then you get the fraudsters out there that are using AI to generate
Mhm.
ebooks in 5 minutes. Then they're uploading, 10 books a day, 20 books a day because they just want to
Yeah.
monetize it. So
Yeah.
I understand, authors now saying, I'm thinking, okay,
Yeah.
what do I do?
Yeah.
You know?
Exactly. It is scary. And I really think it'll come down to like in terms of books for readers because well, I mean it's like authors need to take a stand and do what the right thing for themselves. But I think it'll come down to readers. Readers who read AI generated books will soon find they're quite dull. Like they're quite level. And but I think it's kind of like the we used to make our own clothes. Everyone used to like people made clothes by hand, and then it was like factory made, and we could like create a lot of clothing really fast because it was all in the factory. But people still value handcrafted things because they know it takes time and energy. Somebody's hands were on that product. They created it. There's heart in it. And I think readers will be seeking out authors who actually wrote their books, not AI
Yeah.
generated because they'll understand they'll just have that connection that you can only get when you're reading or listening to music that's created by an actual human being. And
Yeah.
so maybe we're not quite there yet. I think we're kind of in this muddy middle place where people are like, "What's happening?" But down the road, I think savvy people will be like, no, I don't want that. I want this. And I don't like, and it's not to say you reject all AI. I don't think that's going to be possible. In fact, we've all been using it to some extent, like even spell and grammar check. Okay, if you use spell and grammar check, you're kind of already, you're already doing it. We just haven't called it that. So yeah, I think it's it's going to be an interesting movement forward, and it is a bit scary, but I think as readers and writers, we need to kind of just say, no, we want to read human stories and leave the AI for the tasks that we don't actually want to do. Let them do it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Embrace it, you know. If you
Yeah.
embrace it, you know, you're going to find out for yourself, okay, how to move forward. And I mean, for any authors out there listening to the show who's still feeling overwhelmed, you got Liisa. She's a coach. You know,
That's right.
listen to her podcast, reach out to her. You know,
Yeah,
that's when you
absolutely.
are actually needed the most, you
Yeah.
know.
I do think so too. Like when I'm talking to authors about their writing, and you can hear there's frustration about, like you said, people putting out books so quickly that are AI generated. And I do have some authors who will use AI to brainstorm things and just kind of get ideas. And I think that's probably okay because they're writing, they're making the decision in the end what they're going to write, and they're writing it themselves, and it's coming from their own brain. And they're just using the technology to kind of um, play with ideas. And it's kind of like a brainstorming session. So,
Yeah.
All of us have to decide what's okay for us and what the limits are, and then just go with that. And you might change your mind down the road. It might look a little differently, but yeah, these tools are pretty incredibly powerful and useful and also scary. So, trying to like, how can we make this benefit us in a way that feels good and doesn't feel like we're selling our soul?
Yeah, no, 100%. I agree. You know, you and I are on the same frequency when it comes to this topic. Before, when you were saying, when authors don't know what to write about, I'm just thinking, like,
Yeah.
if you're an author, definitely you love to also read,
Yes.
So you're reading all these books each and every single day. So, of course, you get in those thoughts of, okay, what do I write about, Because subconsciously, it's already there.
Yeah,
I've read that. What do I read? What do I write about now?
that's
you know.
right.
And if you really stuck, write about your life.
Yeah, it's
Find
true.
some
It's true.
experience in your life. Write about that.
Yeah. Absolutely. What usually happens, I think, for a lot of writers is um, there's like a little seed of an idea. They just have this little thought that I need to write about that, but they're not sure necessarily where to go with it or how to develop it or what kind of book it will be. But there's something that's been kind of nagging at them, and they keep coming back to. And that's what I say. That's the idea you need to pursue because it's there. It keeps coming back to you for some reason. When I
Yeah.
was writing like Water for Weary Souls, I was reading a book by Varhu Lindstrom. It's called Defiant Sisters, and it's about Finnish immigrant women in Canada. And she covers a really long time span. And I was just reading it out of interest because I'm always like to, learn about history. And then I came across that section that was set in the 1930s and in my hometown. And it was like, light bulb. Oh, I know what I want to write about. And she was talking about these women who were bootleggers. She was talking about the women who ran boarding houses, and other women were ran brothels. And I was like, what? Like, I didn't know anything about this. And so that's where kind of the little idea came from. If I hadn't been reading that book, that idea wouldn't have come to me. That became central to the story. So I think that's just paying attention. Like, read
Yeah.
lots,
Yeah.
pay attention to the news, pay attention to stuff that's happening in your life. And there'll be little ideas that are just like that little spark that will get you going into story mode. And you'll be like, oh, what if I had a character that this, and what if I had that? And then all of a sudden you were developing a story. Like, story
Yeah.
ideas are everywhere. We just have to like be open to them, and maybe jot your ideas down in a little notebook or on your phone app or whatever, and then keep coming back to it, and something there will just generate, your brain will just start working on a story, and you'll be like, I know, I have an idea. Yeah, it's pretty incredible because I feel like I'm never at a loss for writing a story idea. There's always a zillion of them. It's almost harder to just, which one am I going to focus on? That's harder.
Yeah. Follow your heart, Like
Yes.
that's what you did. You follow your heart, which link back to your heritage. And now you've released all these phenomenal books. Follow your heart. It's telling you something, you
That's
know.
right. Yeah.
If you're
Lean
passionate
into the
about that,
things
okay,
you
start
love.
writing about it. Yeah, because I mean, if you're really passionate about it, no matter who's written about it, your story is going to be great because you've written about it from your heart.
Yeah, I
Who
agree. And it's
cares who's written
completely your own.
about it?
Yeah, I agree. It's
Yeah.
it's even if somebody else wrote about the same time period as I wrote about in the same town, their story would still be so different because we're always bringing ourselves into it and our experiences and our understanding of the world and the research we've done and, maybe interviews we've done. Like it all comes together in this really unique way. So yeah, I agree. Follow your passion, follow your heart. You're going to find the thing that you're, just is an idea that you can sustain. Because that's one of the problems when you're writing a book. It takes a long time. So you have to kind of love your idea. Because if you hate it, a month in, it's going to be hard to work on it for another year or 2 or 5 or 10 or whatever it's going to take you to write the book. So yeah, you kind of want an idea that you really are passionate about learning more and developing it. And then we'll get to the finish line. It will happen because you're invested in it and you understand why you're writing that story. That's so important.
Yeah. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Yeah. So, like Water for Weary Souls, do you have a copy of it?
I do. I can hold it up there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great cover. That's a great cover.
Thank you. I love the cover too. Mark Karras designed that. He did an amazing job. I was really thrilled. Yeah.
But the inspiration came from you.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you. When I was speaking to him initially, I said, I really don't know what I want the cover to be. Like, I'm just not sure. And so he asked me to send him a whole bunch of images of book covers I liked. So I did that. And I think what he noticed about the book covers I sent him that I liked, they were very much landscapey. Like there was some kind of sense of atmosphere and setting. And so this is a Northern Ontario book. It's set like late spring after a very heavy snowfall is that initial event where the first sister dies in the creek. And so he took the ideas from the story and then he created this. And I thought, like brilliant. And he has, there's a reoccurring crow that shows up in the story. And the crow is on the cover right above the O in souls. And I'm like, yes, like he just got it. So I love, I love when somebody else's artistic vision combines with your artistic vision and creates something new. Like so great. Because I would not have been able to say, hey, I want this on the cover and do this and do that. Like, I don't know. I wasn't sure at all, but
yeah.
he had the book and he knew, okay, I know where I'm headed with this. And I was thrilled. So yeah, artists have a beautiful eye for those kind of details. Yeah.
But I mean, it just shows, the importance of having a good team. At times, this may be what I am good at. And even though it may cost you, it's better, long term to just get that responsibility to someone who is dedicated to that, dedicated to design, dedicated to doing the cover art. Yes. Hand it over. Let them do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's the thing. Like, I totally understand as an author, like I've been traditionally published and I've been self-published. So I kind of see what the different roles people do. And I do understand authors need to be careful about if they're especially self-published, be careful about how much you spend. Like you don't want to spend everything and then never make it back. Like you kind of want to be careful, but you also, like you say, hire professionals. Like you need to hire an editor. I think that's like, you must please hire an editor. And I think a cover designer is a really great place to spend money as well, because it does make a difference for readers. If you've designed something on Canva and you're already a professional designer, make your own cover. But if you have a friend who's a professional designer, have them do it, maybe for less money. But if you do it yourself and you don't know what you're doing, and it's like you can't take on the role of somebody who's been trained professionally to do this for decades and think that you can do a good job. Like I feel like it might save you a lot of money, but I'm not sure that it's useful. And another place, like of course I'm biased because I'm a book coach, but there are times when a book coach might be necessary. And I have, as an author, often hired a book coach. I have Kim Reynolds here in Ottawa. And when I'm working on it, especially at the beginning of a project, I love it. She gives me deadlines, love a deadline. And she gives me feedback and we have conversations. And then I can really sort through what I want to do. And then I can go ahead and work on the writing part myself. But there's different book coaches for different parts of the project. But there are times when it's so useful. So I totally agree with you. Like be careful. Don't spend all your money on all the things, but also like hire professionals for certain jobs that are necessary. And your book will be better for it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, another important point that you have just made is coaches. We all need coaches. The most successful people in the world still have coaches.
100%.
Going back to how the show started about sports and the million
Yes.
dollar player still needing a coach.
Yes.
I still have coaches. I still need coaches. I am always going to have someone that I am looking up to that is
Yeah.
guiding me for the remainder of
Yeah.
my life. You
Always,
know,
always. And
without,
it'll always help you move forward, right? Like
yeah,
you'll get to a certain stage and then the coach will help you get to the next level. And I think that's true for our whole lives. I mean, we always look for mentors, people who can teach you something new, people who can support you and encourage you. And and do that for other people too, right? Like so if you've reached a level of success, be that person for somebody else, right? Make yourself available to somebody younger or who's just entering the business and like give them some mentorship or a call that you can have a conversation. Like, I think that's giving back in a way that is so authentic and community minded. And I always talk about being a good literary citizen. It doesn't just mean like, just showing up online, but also supporting other authors and supporting other writers and supporting young people, taking leadership positions in organizations that will foster that. Because, like, how do we get here? We all got here by having leadership in front of us, having mentorship, having
yeah,
coaching, having teachers, having colleagues who helped
yeah,
us, who gave us advice, who lifted us up when we were feeling down. I think we have to be that for other people too. And it makes it this full circle journey, right? You're starting at the beginning and don't know what you're doing. And then
yeah,
eventually
yeah,
someday
yeah.
you're going to be helping somebody else. And I think that's
Yeah.
the beautiful thing.
Agreed. Agreed. Honestly, Lisa, you're such a cool person. You would never
Ah,
like you could never say, I mean, you mentioned, that you're 53 years old, but I know 53-year-olds, and they are like, lazing around, I've given up on life, whatever, but there's so much positive energy with you and
That's so
you know,
kind. Well, I figure
yeah.
I'm 53 and I have another 53 to go. So I have plenty of time
Yeah, yeah.
to do this thing.
Yeah, 100%. And it's all here,
It's
it's
all in
all
your
here.
head.
The power
Yes.
of the mind.
Yeah. It's the
We are
power of
gonna
the
be
mind.
like, okay,
Hmm.
yeah, 53 years old, and
Yeah.
well, that's how your life is gonna unfold,
That's
unfortunately.
right. And I feel like I've been given another opportunity. Like I had a lovely, lovely time as a teacher for almost 30 years. And now I have like hopefully another 30 years of doing this. And like I really think in the arts, like there's no age limit. A lot of people write their first book at 65, at 70, at 75. There was a woman who got a medical degree in her 80s. Like, wow, that's so
Yeah.
inspirational. Like it really is just a number. So I feel like we shouldn't worry about it. We should just go like, oh, what do I still want to do? And if you don't feel the energy to do something, I think that's part of the problem. If you're not doing things, you don't have energy, right? And then you just kind of like sink into your life and go, well, I'll just watch some more Netflix, you know?
Yeah,
But if you
yeah,
start to get involved in something creative, then you have this energy comes naturally and you get more engaged with that creativity and community and other people and it like makes you feel young and vibrant. And I think you can do that for your whole, like that's what I love about the arts. You can do these things for your whole life, right? It's like there's actors and actresses that are, whatever, 80s, 90s, they're still working and they're finding joy. They can pick their projects, whatever. I think it's like musicians, they can play right to the end. Like it's just
yeah,
incredible, and that keeps us alive and young and keep learning, and yeah,
yeah,
I think it's incredible. Everyone should have something. It doesn't matter what it is. Knitting. If you love to knit, just go be a knitter and find your community and create things.
yeah,
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 whatever it is, it can be anything, but just keep
yeah.
active in some way.
We just need to like step outside, the system, because
Hmm.
this is the narrative. This is what's always been told. It's not that. It really is not that. You can do what you want when you want. Age is just a number. You know, time doesn't exist. Yeah, right.
That's
We just been told that it exists and it's there because we're looking at this clock and we're counting the years as they go by.
yeah.
It's not life, you're here to love. So go out and love.
I
Come
love
on.
that. That's so good. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Totally agree with you.
Thank you so much. I mean, you've been so inspirational. Wow.
Oh, that's so
Wow.
lovely. Thank you for having me. It was such a pleasure to chat with you. What a great way to spend some time.
Yeah, what a great way to start the week. So, Lisa,
Yeah.
where can listeners find you online? Where are you? Where
Yeah.
you at?
Yeah. So I have a website. You can find it at lisakovala.com or lisakovalabookcoach.com. And I also am on Substack for the podcast and newsletter, and that's Liisa Kovala Women Writing .substack.com. So Lisa with 2 I's and Kovala with a K.
Okay, so 3 dedicated websites, that I can
Yeah.
include in the description. And on social media, are you around?
Yes, I'm on Facebook and I'm on Instagram primarily. And I do have a little bit on TikTok. Yeah, I'm not so active there right now, but maybe I should be. We'll see.
Yeah, but at least you're trying. You're there. You're trying.
Right.
Maybe this
Trying
could
things.
work.
You have to
Yeah,
try new
yeah,
things.
yeah. And you want to mention the podcast again and where we can find your
Yeah.
podcast, which platforms?
Yeah, for sure. It's called Women Writing, and you can find it anywhere you're listening to your podcast, Spotify and Apple and all those places, but also on Substack.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So, I mean, we heading towards the end of 2025. One last question: what is your plans for 2026? What can we
I'm
expect?
so excited about 2026. We didn't talk about this, but I'm writing a cozy mystery series called the Huga House Cozy Mystery Series, which leans into my sort of Nordic identity and heritage. And the first book is called Huga and Homicide, and it comes out in March of 2026. And then I have a book called Midsummer Marriage and Murder coming out in April 2026. So I'm very excited because that was so fun to write, cozy mysteries, and very different from the historical mysteries. But that when we talk about happiness and joy, that gave me joy writing those books. So yeah, those are coming out next year. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Well, you are an overachiever. When I was asking the question, I wasn't expecting that. So much on the table. But
Yeah, I like a lot of projects on the go. I like it. It's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100%. Good for you. And I wish you all of the best, not only for 2026, but for the next 53 years. Right?
Thank you. And you too. That's such a pleasure. I really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. No, this was awesome. This was awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you taking the time to come on and just share your dopeness with everyone out there.
Thank you.
If this doesn't inspire you, I do not know what can. I don't know. I give up.
Awesome.
Right. Thank you, Lisa. Please enjoy the rest of your day. And
Thank
who
you,
knows
you
what the
too.
future holds? We'll see each other soon.
I hope so. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Bye.
Bye.